Welcome back. The program is live and presumably in living color, depending on where you are. Let's continue with a program. How about that? Great to have you aboard, and let's get to some headlines here. College football meetings in New York continue. Actually, they're now over. The Sports Business Journal meetings, and pretty much every major figure in the sport, from the president of the NCAA on down, has spoken. Mark Emmert yesterday saying we need help from Congress on athlete name, image, and likeness. President Emmert, you need help, period. But anyway, when you have to ask Congress for help, you got problems. Have you been watching this Congress lately on television? Anyway, the mental health of student athletes is a necessary operational investment in contemporary athletics. That's some of the comments from Greg Sankey earlier. He also was addressing this august group. It is a very serious subject, and Sankey has talked about this often and is extremely concerned. Meanwhile, another, I don't know, I should have gone by there. I was in New York today. I guess I missed all the rumors. By the way, this is 2019, the 18 playoff being floated. Remember last year, same time, same station? It was being floated again. And then it vaporized into the cold winter air. Will this time be different? We're going to talk to Ross Dellinger a little bit later. He was at the meetings, and see what he has to say. We welcome you to the program, and Lane Kiffin is eyeing UCF's Jeff Lebby for the Ole Miss OC job. You know much about Jeff? Obviously, Lane does. Mel Kiper chiming in. To his chances, slim to none, of falling out of the first round. Thank you, Mel. I don't know how you know that without having a medical evaluation, but it's never stopped Mel in the past, has it? No. My name is Paul Finebaum. The name of the program, The Paul Finebaum Show. Sometimes you wonder, you go out of town for a couple of days, you see somebody like spray painting your name out. Ken Niumatalolo, say that after a beer. He's the Navy coach, and he will be with us. One of my favorite coaches. He's a fantastic coach. The aforementioned Dellinger. John Talty, who is also among my absolute faves from AL.com. And maybe even the Army coach, whose name is easier to pronounce than the Navy coach. The Army-Navy game is Saturday, in case you were wondering why we were going Army-Navy on you. Anyway, let's get to your phone calls at 855-242-7285. That is our number. And let's talk to Chase, who is in Atlanta.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey, how are you, Paul?
I'm well, thank you.
I'm from Atlanta. I'm a big Florida fan. So I have to ask you, so we've been struggling with recruiting, specifically getting the big-time five-star players. So what do you think this potential two-loss season, given we're going to be going up against Virginia, mean for recruiting Florida going forward? And especially, what it means to lose a lot of the key players we have. We are losing, like the receiving core, but also retaining guys like Kyle Trask.
Well, so I think Kyle Trask is the key, and otherwise Felipe Franks would not have left. I think it's a huge shot in the arm. It shows that Florida is back, and Dan Mullen is doing exactly what he was hired to do, and that's win a significant number of games. 10 is good. 10 is great. Still a few more things to accomplish, like beat Georgia, but that could be around the corner. Great to have you on. Thank you very, very much. Richard is up next.
Hey, Richard. Hey, Mr. Paul. I'm Richard. How are you today?
I'm well, Richard. Thank you for calling.
Hey, man, this is my first time on the show, and our football team in Pelham, we just got done lifting, and we're all sitting here. We've been trying to get in your show, and we're all hyped right now, man. Thank you so much.
So you're at Pelham High School, is that right?
Yes, sir. We're at Pelham High School.
I'm pretty familiar with it. My first residence in Alabama was very close to Pelham. It's a great place.
And I think I've seen you before. Have you ever went to eat at the Lloyd's restaurant on 280? Have you ever been there?
I've been there a million times. It was one of my favorite places when we lived in Birmingham. My wife and I went there all the time.
Dang, man, that's awesome, man. And how do you think about how Joe Burrow's going to do on the big stage coming up?
Well, you mean another big stage, because I think he's played pretty well on the big stage in Bryant-Denny Stadium and the Mercedes Dome. Do you not think he's going to be able to handle playing Oklahoma?
Oh, I think they're going to murder them. But what do you think about Clemson or Ohio State?
I'm a pretty big Ohio State fan this year.
So you think they're going to take it all?
I didn't say that. I mean, right now my pick would be LSU. Are you an Alabama fan?
No, sir. I go for Ole Miss. Hotty toddy.
Hotty toddy.
But we ain't no good, though. So, I mean, there ain't much I can say about it.
How'd you end up being in Alabama if you're an Ole Miss fan?
Alabama, well, like my great uncle, I used to live with him, and I had to come over here to be with family because, like, I don't know, it's just family situation.
Okay, I hear. Listen, I get it. I got the same problem in my house.
Well, yes, sir. Well, thank you for taking our call. We all love you, man. We're going to try to get in around, like, every day after workouts if that's good.
Now, is Pelham, is that where Dabo Sweeney went?
It is.
Is he I mean, is his picture up in the weight room or something?
I mean, there's some in the gym, like, if you walk in and take a left by the concession stand, it's right there. Like, everybody, he's like an idol around here, man.
Yeah, well, same way.
We all love him.
Same way at Clemson right now. Hey, thanks for the call, buddy. Good to have you on. Really do appreciate it. Sparrow is up next in Alabama.
Hi, Paul.
Hello, Sparrow.
I'm surprised you took my call after I was such a jacktail to you last time, and I wanted to call and apologize for that, Paul, because that's not like me. You know, we're not usually. Well, I'm not like that to you.
Well, I'm
so
trying to remember. You were
accept
unhappy
my
with
apology.
you. What were you? You didn't like something I said about Saban. Is that right?
Yeah. So you know, it's like all of us Bammers, you know, thinking that having to look at the situation, and there's a lot of reasons for the situation. But Paul, I wanted to ask you a serious question about Saban, and you know, when you talk about the dynasty and where it's at, and you know, we hear it all the time being talked about. Let me ask you this, because I know you saw this with Coach Bryant. How do you think a coach in Saban's situation, how should that end?
Well, first of all, let me clear something up about the dynasty,
up?
Sparrow. I had somebody send me the rankings, the recruiting rankings, and said, hey, you're wrong. The dynasty's not over. Let me inform people of this. Being number one in recruiting does not count as a dynasty. A dynasty, Sparrow, is winning the national championship. And, I mean, I'm amazed that people like you would get mad at me, because you know better than anyone how much I've supported the Alabama program. But Alabama has won 2 national championships in the last 7 years. That is not exactly a dynasty. That's a great record. It's better than anyone other than Clemson. But, you know, winning 5 out of 9 is a dynasty. Winning 2 out of the last 7 is a trend.
Right. Okay, Paul. But listen, I want to ask you that. So, how does someone like Saban? How does he put a bow on this in the end?
Well, listen. There's only Sparrow. You're trying to hit a moving target if you're Nick Saban. Do I think he may win another national championship? Absolutely. He's the best coach in college football. He's got among the top 2 or 3 best programs. So he's in a position. I mean, to win the national championship, you have to be in position to win the national championship, and he has been in position every single year.
Right. So, but that's what I'm saying, though. When you get to the top and you're living on the top of the mountain for so long, and he's got a great legacy. So how is
Well, listen. Why should he? Why should he? I mean, Bear Bryant retired because he was a sick old man.
Right.
Nick Saban is not a sick man. He's a healthy, even though he's almost the same age as Bryant. You wouldn't. And all I can say is I've covered both of them. Now the difference between me today, covering Saban today, and me covering Bryant. Is I was a really young guy covering Bryant. He looked incredibly old. I'm younger than Saban by 4 or 5 years, but he doesn't look old to me now. He looks pretty normal.
Right.
So I mean, it's really the difference of somebody in their 20s looking at someone in their 60s, and someone in their 60s looking at someone in their upper 60s.
Right. But
and by the way, my eyesight is not nearly as good as it was back then.
Right.
I mean, I once wrote an article about Bryant that said that the lines in his face were like craters in the moon. I mean, they were so indented.
Wow.
I mean, I wouldn't say that anymore.
Right. But Paul, you're wiser now, absolutely. But you have to admit, how does someone like that? I mean, how do they wrap it up?
Well, listen, Sparrow, I will tell you, having covered people for as long as I have, you never know when it's over. Okay, in Saban, I don't think it's over for Saban. Now, if he had lost, if he goes 7-5 next year, I would say, you know what, I think it might be over. But
right.
He lost 2 games this year. They were both narrow losses to 2 top teams, including the #1 team in the country. So, I mean, I always thought you wanted to go out earlier than later. And I was talking to an athlete once. He said, "No, you don't want to leave anything on the table. You want to you'd rather be carried out than go. You know what? I could have played another year, or I could have coached another year." I mean, I frankly believe Nick Saban will coach for a couple of more years. I don't think he's going to coach for 10 more years, but I think he can coach for 3 or 4 more years. Up against the break. More to come. More of your phone calls and plenty of guests. We are coming right back. Today in Philadelphia, it's going to be pretty rough weather up there, I am told. It's been a competitive game. For a long time it had not been, but couldn't be any closer than it is right now. The president is expected to go to the game. That will be his 2nd college football game of the year. Pretty soon, Donald Trump will be calling in this show.
That's right, Paul. And we're ready for it.
What are you guys wearing?
It's we always promote the game.
Go Army.
Go Navy, beat Army. And so there's a helmet out there.
Let's go Knights.
We've got a coin to promote the 120th commemorative coin to commemorate the 120th meeting, and they sent us these awesome hats.
Right. We said, can you send us a couple ball caps, please, that we can wear on the show to sort of
help promote the game?
And they sent us these foam, amazing
these are
tank
amazing.
And battleship hats.
My battleship's huge. But this is one of the great...
I could shoot your battleship with my tank hat, I feel. This
is one of the great games in college football, Paul. I still like the fact that it gets its own day on the schedule. Now, if we talked about an 8-game expansion, Paul, do you think one of the sacrifices would have to be Army-Navy not getting its own college football day? Or do you think this will always have its own day?
Yeah, I mean, this would be the most logical week to have the game because next week is bumping, and you could do it next week, but next week is getting really close to Christmas.
Right.
Yeah.
Some traditions obviously get moved around a little
bit.
Yeah. So I think, as great as this one is having its own day, as long as they always play at the end of the season, I'm okay with it.
I don't know why you couldn't have this game on the championship Saturday.
Yeah,
I mean, there's plenty of room on that day.
I like it getting its own spot, but it also might serve well as an appetizer to an amazing day of huge football.
I mean, you could play that game at noon on championship Saturday, and it would go up against the Big 12 game. Who cares?
It's fair.
Welcome everyone back. We'll have the Navy coach on first. I'm still working on the phonetic pronunciation. What was that again, Mark? Ken Niumatalolo. I'll just say Coach Ken. How about that? I've interviewed him before. It's always a challenge. Let's go to Red Dog next. That's not hard to say. Red Dog, you there?
Hello.
Go right ahead. You're on the air.
Paul, you make sense of it all. What happened? I mean, we went to the game, and then all of a sudden, it was a bad nightmare.
No, it wasn't a bad nightmare. It's the annual head bashing that Kirby Smart has suffered every year that he's been there.
Yeah. Well, not every year. We did beat Auburn.
No, every year that Kirby has been there, I believe that they have lost badly to some team.
No, we won the SEC championship in like 17.
Yeah.
We beat Auburn in the SEC.
Yeah, but
we lost Alabama.
Hey, Red Dog, don't give me Red Dog. I'm talking about the game at Auburn that you lost by 3 or 4 touchdowns. Okay.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Well, here's my point. I'm going to this point. So everybody's down on Jake Fromm, and you look back to the Rose Bowl year. Jake Fromm
Red Dog, see if you can do me a favor. Just make a point. Don't give me a history lesson, okay?
Okay, my point is until we get back running the football again, where we can get 200-plus yards a game, we ain't going to beat anybody. And that was our problem. You can't. Georgia is tailback. We're never going to beat anybody with a pass. We got to run the football.
Okay. And you're. Why don't you call Kirby? You've always told me how close friends you are with him.
Well, I think Matt Luke's going to help that. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know.
I think Sam Pittman's committing career suicide. But he's going to be a rich man because of it. He may be on the SEC Network in 3 years.
Who's Sam Pittman?
Yeah. Isn't that where? Did y'all hire?
I just hope I am.
Yet? Huh?
I just hope I'm here in 3 years.
Paul. You are the SEC Network, Paul. Without you, it'd be the Big Ten Network. You know that. And the ACC Network. Mark,
the ACC Network has gotten very interesting. It seems like they're taking a lot of shots at us.
Who, ACC Network?
Yeah, one of their morning hosts went after Vince Thompson today.
Oh, really? Well, I'm glad Clemson finally beat a top 25 team to legitimize their playoff spot. They've really,
thanks for the call. Dan is up next in Louisiana.
Thanks, Paul, for taking my call.
Thank you.
Paul, it's been pleasant here lately without the Alabama callers calling in and the Florida callers calling in, banging their chest. And, I just wanted to say it's been kind of pleasant the last week or
it
so.
really is interesting what happens when it's, I'm not a deer hunter, but, they always talk about the winnowing process of getting the deer thinned out. I'd say the Alabama fans have been thinned out right now because, the Alabama fans either call in to talk about how the dynasty's not over or they call in to talk about how much they're rooting against LSU.
Wow. That's bad, isn't it? That's really bad.
Well, listen, I don't care who you root for, but I don't think it makes you look good when Squirrel tries the same call every day trying to trash Joe Burrow.
Well, I don't know, Paul. They, just like they used to tell us, just win, baby.
I hear you.
But anyway, I was wondering maybe sometime could we have a smack day or a some kind of day like that where we could just call in a jacktail day that we could just call in and say anything bad about another team or somebody.
Well, Dan, that's pretty much any day that ends in a Y on this show.
Huh?
Yeah, absolutely. We can do that anytime you want. Jeremy is in South Carolina. Hello, Jeremy.
Hey, Paul. Hey, what's up, Paul? How you doing?
We're doing great. Thank you.
Pretty good. But hey, well, I was just calling me. I just wanted to thank you and the SEC Network and all y'all for just poking at the Clemson Tigers all year long. And I think we're going to win it all again. And
well, good.
That's all I got to say, Paul. That's all I got to say. Good.
Well, what else can you say? Clemson fans know one thing. We won last year. We're going to win this year. Don't bother contextualizing anything. Just, we're going to win. There you go. Because we're Clemson. Terry is up next. Hello, Terry.
Hey, Mr. Paul, how you doing today?
We are great. Thank you.
All right, I just wanted to tell you that I'm a big Ohio State fan, and I know you probably don't think so, but I live in Birmingham, and if I ever see an Ohio State fan, I start jumping up out of my seat.
I usually call the police if I see an Ohio State fan near me.
Oh wow, I don't know about that, Mr. Paul. We're some nice people over here.
Well, that's the southern version of Ohio State fans. The Ohio version of Ohio State fans are not so crazy.
How do you think so?
Well, because I know a lot of them.
Oh yes, sir, I got you. I just want to talk about how Ohio State's going to beat Clemson. And I have another thing. I got a question. How do we really know if Clemson's that good when they don't really play anybody?
Well, when they have played somebody, they have beaten them. Last year, they played Notre Dame. They beat them by 27. They played Alabama. They won by 28. They've beaten Ohio State by 31 the last time they played about 4 years ago. Do you remember that game?
But, Mr. Paul, that was 4 years ago. This is a different Ohio State.
Well, I just gave
team.
you two games from this year, so from the end of 18. Listen, I have no idea. We'll know in 2 weeks. Everybody has an opinion until then, and my opinion is different than yours. We will take a break. The Navy head coach will join us shortly. We'll talk about that big game and why it's so important. Kirby Smart, we tried to decipher what Red Dog said. We're still waiting for the UN translation. But guys, what does Kirby need to do? Does he need to change the approach or stay status quo?
Change the approach. It worked for LSU.
Right.
It's even worked for Nick Saban at times.
I was going to say, everybody who's changed it, it's worked for them. They came into this year with national title aspirations. They had a great offensive line, which was bragged about by everybody, and
all true.
It just didn't work in the big game against LSU, and it fell apart against South Carolina. So, Paul, I mean, if you lose out on Mike Bobo as an OC here, and you bring in Matt Luke as your O-line coach, what do you have to do?
It's worth remembering Mike Bobo was not the most popular OC at Georgia.
Right. There was, what is it, run the ball Bobo? Or
Yeah, didn't hand the ball to Gurley, famously one on first and goal.
Do you think that Georgia needs to change up a little bit and freshen up the offense?
I'd like to talk to Kirby Smart about that.
What would you advise him to do?
I don't give advice to coaches.
That's fair. I mean, just from their fans' sake,
though.
I
advise network executives on what they should do.
But do you have to listen to the fans a little bit? I mean,
listen, I don't think Kirby Smart needs to listen to anyone. I mean, he's a very successful coach. I think there are reasons why the Georgia offense stuttered this year.
Was it the receivers? Was the lack of original play calling?
We talked about it in May and June. They didn't have a very strong complement of receivers, and it came back to haunt them.
Right. No playmakers, especially compared to the LSU and Bama playmakers. It's not even in the same league. But the thing you got to wonder about, I do think I would want to know your thoughts, Paul, is the window somewhat starting to close, though, with Tennessee and Florida back on the rebound in the East?
Hold on. I mean, Tennessee had to fight like crazy to go 7-5. I'm not sure Tennessee is.
They got a lot of momentum.
I think Florida is the school you have to be careful about. Welcome back to the program. We are glad you are here, and certainly we are going to change the focus for just a few minutes and talk about this man right here. He is the head coach at Navy, Ken Niumatalolo. And look at his just amazing success. He's the most successful coach in Navy history. Not only that, in our encounters with Coach, he has just been so extraordinary. And you expect that at the Naval Academies, but Coach walks, not only talks the talk, he walks the walk. Coach, thank you very much. I know it's a busy time. We really appreciate you making time for us here on the program. Good afternoon, and I hope all is well.
Paul, how you doing? No, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be on your show. I mean, love what you do, and it's an honor to be on your show.
Thank you so much. I know sometimes as a coach, you're hung up on what coaches get hung up on, getting ready for this game. But I am interested, with such a long lead time, how do you prepare from the last game a few weeks ago and space it out, because you don't want to be ready for this game 2 weeks ago. You want to be ready Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, it's a great question. I'd heard Coach Belichick and talking about the Super Bowl. One of the things he did is, like, the first week they made sure they had most of their stuff in, because the second week, it's about players' tickets and some of the other distractions that ended up happening. We obviously played in this game a ton, and we try to do similar things, make sure that the majority of our stuff's in. If anything in the second week, maybe a little bit of refining, maybe taken away, but try not to add. The coaches were the worst at meeting and to continue to add things and make things more difficult. And sometimes you get in a meeting, I always find it interesting. You're in there so long, and then you talk about a call, and then you look, wait a minute, didn't we call it something else? You can change the same call, but you're in there for 3 hours, and you might have called it bird, and by the end of the meeting you're calling it cat, and it's the same thing. And so just be careful when you're in these kind of games. You want to win so bad. Sometimes there can be a paralysis by overanalysis, and just don't get too complicated. Allow your kids to play. Make sure you have a sound game plan, but try not to do too much.
Coach, listen, it's not easy coaching against anyone, and Navy plays some major opponents every single year. But how would you say it's different when you walk out there and look around and see the environment, which is one of the most extraordinary in sports? Does it feel different when you're looking across the field and it is Army?
It's always different. I mean, when you see them over there, when it's your rivals, things change. It's still the football game, but when it's your rivals on the other side, things always change. I've been in this game for so long, Paul. It's everything's different. I remember one year we're in pregame and we're having 7-on-7 Skelly pass, and President Bush is walking in between drills, and they got Secret Service people over there, and how do you tell the president to get off the field? He's going to get run over. You're just like, okay, guys, we'll just hold on. Don't run your curl route into him. Just kind of let him walk around and shake people's hands. But there's no other games that happen. You got the president, at pregame, and you see Secret Service people. I remember one of my first games as a young coach. There are guys, you're always trying to get guys behind the line because the referees are always yelling at you. And there was one guy, he had a long coat on, and I looked at him, and I was about to yell at him, but I saw one of those wire things coming out of his ears. So I didn't know what kind of weapons he had under his jacket. I figured, I'll just let him stand in front of the white line. I'll just move down to the 25 and get away from that side. But it's different. There are things that happen at game that don't happen at any other game.
And I bring this up because, you play a really healthy schedule. You played Memphis this year, a team that's going to a major bowl game. You play Notre Dame. This is not the only big game you play all year. You play a lot of big games, but it is different. And I'm interested. Of course, by the way, the president, we are told, is going to be there on this Saturday as well. He's been to the game before, and every president is different. But in terms of that part of it, I know I'm getting after the fact, but going to visit the White House after a win has to be pretty satisfying, doesn't it?
Well, it means everything for our program. Winning Commander-in-Chief Trophy, obviously we're Service Academy, and so it means everything. That's our number one goal, to beat Air Force and beat Army. We're halfway there. We got our biggest one coming up. And so it's everything. Rivalry games are big. Obviously, there are a lot of great ones throughout the country. But for Navy to beat Army is everything for us. And, our kids are looking forward to it, but it definitely is special being able to go to the White House, receiving those kind of awards. It's unique. For us, national champions, get to go to that, and the CIC winner, winning the Commander-in-Chief Trophy. So we know it's an elite group, and we don't take any of that for granted.
Coach, this is a talk show that delves into college football all the time, and we understand the rivalry. But what is your personal relationship like with Coach Monken? Because you guys have to be examples. No matter what you're thinking about during the game, you can't let that affect the image of both programs, can you?
It's a great question, Paul. I mean, just I've known Jeff for many years. We were graduate assistants together at the University of Hawaii. We both started our careers together 30 years ago. I have great respect for him as a person, as a coach, know his family. But as far as ball, it's ball. I mean, this isn't, it's not like we're going to come, at the 50-yard line and, dust off white gloves or anything like that. I mean, it's, I'm trying to beat the crap out of him. It's just, when it's all said and done, when I'm retired and he's retired, maybe we can think about these games. But right now, he's a good friend of mine, but he's the head coach at Army. I'm the head coach at Navy, and I don't see it any other way. And, I'm not going to be disparaging or anything, but football is a freaking competitive sport, man. And just, it can't be any other way. If you lose any ounce of competitiveness or any ounce of getting soft or feeling sorry for anybody, you're not going to last long in this profession. I think sometimes people look at me just maybe laid back guy from Hawaii. I'm trying to rip your throat out in this game. There's no other way you can survive in Division I football. There's too many good teams, too many good coaches. Everybody's got dining facilities. Everybody's got nice recruiting places. If you let your foot off the pedal at all, you'll be in another profession. This profession is way too competitive, even for the service academies. Don't be misconstrued. These admirals and people, they want to beat them. And, they might be nice to you and stuff, but if you lose to them too many times, I'll be back in Hawaii driving a bus.
Well, Coach, and certainly, you've had a lot of success in the game lately. It's gone the other way. But when you run into the brass, and I don't mean to be disparaging, but that's what they're often called. What type of advice or comments do you get from the people that are the most respected and revered in your class, your department and in your class of Army and of the military? Because you don't want to run it into a top admiral and after a loss, do you?
Well, yeah, they can be pretty intimidating, but when you talk to them. And they talk to the team. These guys are leaders of men. They've led people into combat. And if there's anything that they're great leaders. And so they know what to say to people. They know what to say to teams. There have been years where, several generals or admirals have spoken to our team, a commandant of the Marine Corps, and they do a great job because they know how to motivate people. They know how to inspire people. That's what they do for a living. It's what we do as coaching to help guys on the field to perform better. But these guys do it from a life and death situation as far as trying to motivate people. So anything they say are always of relevance. But sometimes, not every team's the same, Paul. And so some teams, I feel like, it'd be good if they would come and talk, or the general or the commandant of the Marine Corps would come and talk. But sometimes I feel like, they know what time it is. This team doesn't need 92 more motivational speeches. And this year it's like that. I feel like this team, they're a pretty mature team. They know what time it is. We don't need, 42 different motivational speeches. We just need to play, and that's kind of the approach that we've taken this year with this team.
Coach, just off the subject of this game for a second, obviously you're from Hawaii, you played at Hawaii, and we've gotten a lot more familiar down here with that culture, with Tua, certainly Mariota. So many great players have come out of there. What does that mean to you to see your state, starting to produce so many great players that are all over the country, for that matter?
Well, we feel like, Paul, there's always been great players there. And when I grew up, the majority of the good players stayed on the West Coast, maybe USC or Washington, didn't go much further than that, and maybe to Arizona State and stuff like that. And, Manti, we're from the same hometown, Manti Tell, and he went to Notre Dame. I think Tua and Marcus, like you said, Marcus going to Oregon, Tua going to Alabama, obviously. We feel like there have always been good players. Obviously when you go to a program like Alabama, you're going to get a ton of exposure, but Just feel a great sense of pride that he's able to do it at the highest level, and perform at a high level. He comes from a great family. Tua does, great people. Just excited, just proud of them. And I think of all the things that I think about for him, Paul, is just I watch him. Obviously, his football skills are off the chart. For a school like Alabama, with all the storied players that they've had, and to see the records that he's performed and how well he's done. But I'm also proud of the way he's conducted himself and carried himself. He's given all of us, in the state of Hawaii, a great sense of pride. Milton McKenzie.
Oh, sure.
Milton at UCF. Kenzie's done a great job there. Even with Kenzie's injury, he's still. I've been so happy with the way those guys have performed and conducted themselves, both on and off the field. We're nothing but pride for those guys.
Well, Coach, you've always been fantastic coming on. We wish you all the best on Saturday, and look forward to chatting when maybe the pressure isn't quite as intense as it is right now. All the best.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me. Take care.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. What an amazing gentleman. We talked to him a number of times, and I love that line. He said, yeah, I'm friends with Coach Monken, but our job is to beat the crap out of them Saturday. I mean, that's football, and if you know anything about this game, if you got some spare time and are curious, read John Feinstein's The Civil War. It's one of the best sports books ever about that particular game. We're up against a break. More of your phone calls at 855-242-7288.
Yeah, it's been an unbelievable year from an offensive production standpoint, and of course, going on the road early, winning that game at Texas, of course, with Burrow completing a huge play there in the fourth quarter that gave us the real get over the hump play in that ball game. Of course, just the big wins. I mean, the Alabama win on the road was huge, and I know Tua was banged up, and they had a young defense, but to really to get over that hump, they beat us 8 years in a row. That was just such a huge victory for us to go through Tuscaloosa and do it that way this year. And we've got a lot of upperclassmen. We had four guys come back on the offensive line. We've got all these weapons all over the field, and to be a good quarterback, you're only as good as the people around you. And Burrow's had the luxury of having not only a great play caller with the addition of Joe Brady, Ensminger and Brady really kind of co-coordinating the thing. Kind of reminds me of Kiffin and Sark. My brother played at SC under Pete Carroll, and they had that kind of a two-headed monster out there when things were going good. And Brady's just brought a huge offensive element to, this team, which is loaded with upperclassmen and weapons galore. So that's been the funnest part of it. It's fun to watch these games when we used to watch LSU go, 3 yards, a cloud of dust, backfield stuff, double tight stuff. But now we can actually score some points, and it's a ton of fun. Well, just the evolution of the spread for sure. Giving him the opportunity to be dynamic opens up a lot of different throws for him, quick throws, deep throws. We're in 4 wide, 5 wide receiver sets. I love when we motion Clyde Edwards out of the backfield. And, he's won some one-on-one battles out there running routes too. And when he is in the backfield, we get him the ball as well. And so you have to cover really every blade of grass against them. And he ran this offense in high school. He ran it under Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer's a buddy of mine. He's told me a lot about it before he ever came to really be the player that he is at LSU. And he said, man, he's such a gifted leader. He's got some eludeability. That's a word, I guess, that not a lot of people would use. But pocket presence is unbelievable, quick release, timing, and accuracy. But it's all, the anticipation's there. He's got all the weapons, like I said. But being in this offense it's got to be so much fun for him. A year ago, I think in the red zone he threw 5 touchdowns all year. This year he's thrown 28. I mean, so we're spreading it out and finding weaknesses in defenses where LSU's never done that before, and so we're utilizing our strengths is what we're doing.
We welcome you back. Really glad you're here, and let's continue with more phone calls at 855-242-7285. Adam is in Ann Arbor, Michigan, the home of Jim Harbaugh.
Paul Finebaum. How are you doing, sir?
I am doing great. Thank you.
Paul, I'm a big fan. I've been listening to your show for a very, very long time. I was talking to the guys that answered the phone. I told them I was in a very, very interesting predicament. I'm from Alabama, graduated from Alabama in 2009, moved up to Ann Arbor, Michigan for work, and my
Right.
boss is a Ohio State grad. So how do I keep these people happy up here?
No, there's no way. I mean, first of all, I've never seen a Michigan fan that was happy yet.
they're not very happy up here right now, and they don't seem to be very happy to play us in the ball game. But Paul, I just real quick, I had one thing. I was listening to you these past couple of weeks on LSU, and I happen to be one Bama fan that agrees with you 100%. I think Coach O is a great coach. I think he's came a long way from where he was back in the day, back at USC. I think he deserves all the respect and glory that he gets right now. And Burrow as well. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks I think I've seen in a long time, especially at LSU, and definitely deserves the AP Player of the Year. And I guess he's going to get the Heisman.
Oh, no, he's going to win it
He
all.
deserves that as well. Yeah. And then one last thing. I was interested about Saban's demeanor on the sideline these past couple of seasons. It just doesn't seem like he's into the game as much as he used to be. Is that a result of his age, or what do you think?
No, I just think he's frustrated. When Nick Saban is a perfectionist, and when things don't go well, he loses it.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thanks for taking my call, Paul, and great show and really great.
Thank you very
conversation
much.
with Ken.
Great
I'm
to
a
have
big
you
fan-
on.
I'm a big fan of you. Yes, sir. Take care.
Good to have you. Good stuff. Let's move along and talk to Josh in Georgia. Hello, Josh.
Hey, Paul, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
I was wanting to ask you, how do you think Matt Luke's going to do at Georgia, and do you think Georgia's going to lose all those recruiters that Sam Pittman had?
I don't. I think Matt Luke is a great recruiter myself, and I suspect that he'll be able to stop the hemorrhaging. I mean, Matt is a very personable coach.
And how do you think Sam Pittman's going to do at Arkansas with his recruiting?
Josh, I don't know. I mean, I think that's to be determined. I think there's a lot of people who like what they've seen. We hope to talk to Coach tomorrow night and maybe get an update. But he's inheriting an absolute mess, and regardless of his personality, it's going to be more difficult to recruit to Arkansas than I think that it's ever been, because when you don't win an SEC game in 2 years, players just become disillusioned and go, why do I want to go there? I mean, you hope they do,